Welcome back, world, to the Verbal Intercourse Podcast. Got your host, Nick Walker, back in the building with you today. Shout out to everybody that's been listening, supporting the podcast, sharing the podcast, subscribing to it on YouTube. Very appreciative over here at Verbal Intercourse. Today, got some very special guests in the building. Mr. Sergeant Christian Vance and his mother, Mrs. Vance. Very appreciative to have these two well-spoken individuals on my platform today, and it's going to be a great time. Today we're talking about adolescent and pediatric mental health, which is a really big deal currently. Especially we all reside in Jackson, Mississippi, where we saw a fellow Murrah classmate, well, not classmate, but a girl that went to Murrah at the time, and she basically committed suicide, which is it was very terrible and horrible for me to hear about, especially me and Christian being alums of Murrah. So today I kind of wanted to talk about that, and also talk about what can we do for our children that's living in America, in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi as well, and talk about what the things that we can do as far as listening to our children and helping them become more health well. So today, Mr. Sergeant Christian Vance, wanted to introduce you and tell the people a little bit about you.
Hey, you guys, I'm Christian Vance, Sergeant with JPD. Y'all know me, graduate of Murrah, Jackson State. I've known Nick since I was my son's age, probably about 11, 12 years old. Product of two great parents, and so I had to bring my mom here, who's a mental health professional here, and just how my job is, just dealing with in a reactionary way. A lot of times in my police job, dealing with children who might be struggling with mental health, and then on the other community side, in a proactive way, dealing with children that might be struggling with mental health issues. Go ahead, Mama.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sabrina Vance. I'm an LCSW. As a licensed clinical social worker. I am the owner of Grace for Today, LLC. I'm a mental health provider. I have been a mental health provider since 2009. I've had 9 years of experience with Hines Behavioral Health Service. I was for seven of those years, I was a school-based therapist. And then for the last 2 years, I was the project director of Infusion Metro, which was a program that Hines Behavioral Health Service has, right, to help children, youth, and their families. I also worked at Brentwood in the adolescent unit as a therapist. I used to be the manager of the Children's Psychiatric Ward 3 Circle at UMMC. And then I decided to start my own practice. And I primarily work with children, youth, and their families, but I also do work with adults.
Wow. So for everybody that's going to listen, we have two very well qualified people to talk about this topic right here. And so today I'm going to just be sitting back, learning and asking questions, because these two, they got a vast amount of information. So the first question I wanted to ask Ms. Vance, especially you, since you're a parent, you raised Christian, how early and at what point did you start introducing different questions to your children about how they were feeling, as well as as far as like how they were feeling and how they feel mentally on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I have to say this, that one of the things with my children, when they come home from school, it's like, how was your day? And what did you do today? And they would say nothing. And that was not going to fly with me. Okay? You were at school for 8 hours. I need to know what you did during those 8 hours. We as parents have to keep a line of communication open with our children. We have to be observant. We have to, and our children today are experiencing things that I know you two didn't have to experience, and I know I did not have to experience. And that old adage, it takes a village to raise a child. It definitely takes a village to raise children these days. We have gotten away in the African American community where we would allow other people to say things to our kids. When we saw things going on, when I was growing up, Miss Sally beat your butt, Mr. Henry beat your butt, and then you got your butt beat when you got home. But now we don't want anyone saying anything to our children, you know. And so we have got to stop doing that. We have got to be observant. We have got to notice if our child is acting differently than what you were used to, you know, to the norm. And we cannot allow our children to say there's nothing wrong when we know there's something wrong. We need to be able to offer a safe environment where our children feel comfortable talking to us. You know, we need to stop being our children's friends. Okay, I love my son. He is 33 years old, but he is not my friend. I'm his mama.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that's just the bottom line. I'm his mother. Another problem I see is that we don't respect our children. We expect our children to respect us, but we do not respect them. And so in turn, they're disrespectful. We have some, you know, Christian sees it. I see it. I mean, I've seen it for years. We have some children who have some behavioral issues, some mental health issues. And oftentimes, when I would meet the parents, I would see why the children are the way they are.
Right.
You know, call them a spade a spade. Parents, we got to do better.
Yeah, that's definitely real. Christian, I want to hear your opinion about that. Since you know, one of my favorite things to watch you do is be a father. Be a father to your own children and be a father to all of the children that's in your community, as well as the Fern Foundations. So talk to me a little bit about how do you introduce mental health into those children? Because like your mother said, these kids these days, they dealing with a lot of different things, whether it's social media, whether it's drugs that they were introduced. It's some of the drugs that I see kids introduced to these days that I didn't even, I still don't know.
Right.
You know, so talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, kids today are definitely overexposed. They're overexposed. It's a microwave generation. They want everything fast. We give them things everything fast because, quite frankly, in my opinion, our generation has been lazy parents. So when I say us, anywhere between 30 and 40, we just been lazy, you know, as far as letting TV and media and all this stuff raise our kids and put it in front of them to sit down and shut up. And so I can say, you know, from growing up 80s, 90s, 2000s and having two, you know, rock star parents, you know, and then becoming a father with an amazing wife who's an amazing mother. That the main thing about it is to be intentional, and you can't be a good parent on accident, and you can't raise good kids on accident. So my main thing is to be intentional with the lessons that I'm trying to teach my children. I want you to be conscientious and thoughtful first to yourself, you know, because that's how it starts. I can't expect you to go out here and be patient and kind and loving and conscientious and thoughtful to everybody else if it doesn't start with yourself. If you're not able to look at yourself and see what you need, look at yourself and say, okay, I made a mistake, but I'm still good. I'm still, you know. And so one of the things, and I shared this yesterday on Facebook, it was a memory on Facebook. You know, it comes up and it was a picture of Muhammad Ali. It says, I'm young, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and I can't possibly be beat. And so, you know, I came into the world feeling that way. That's how I feel about myself. This is how I feel. And so my parents, they never try to alter me. They try to make me the best me that I can be. You know, okay, this is how he is. This is how his engine runs. So let me try to make him the best him he can be. So even with my children, I have 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. They're all very, very different. And it's my responsibility as a parent to learn them. You know, it's not our kids' responsibility to be learned. It's our responsibility to learn them like a mechanic. Okay, you know, you don't take a Bugatti to the Mercedes dealership for oil change. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't. So I got 4 different children and their buttons are pushed different ways. And it's for me to learn, okay, all right, how does he respond to this? Or how does she, like when my daughter is feeling, when I notice that she's feeling very pleased with herself and she's feeling very confident and she's feeling unstoppable, I mentally look at that situation and say, okay, what was going on right here that made her feel this way? And how can I recreate this as much as I can? because knowing that I'm not always going to be here, you know. So she has to carry that with her. So like even my parents, I'm 33 years old, the lessons they taught me, you know, when I'm out here on the street dealing with people, this and that, those lessons stay with me. They're not there. They're sleeping in the bed at this point. But they were intentional with how they raised me. And so to parents of children, like, you can't be a good parent on accident. Like my mom said, she did every day. How are you feeling? What happened at school? We couldn't say nothing. We left at 7 o'clock. And then I had football practice. You know what I'm saying? It's 5:30, man. I've been gone for 10 hours. Like, you know, and just like at the Perkins Center with the boys and the girls. And so two of the different things I see is, you know, boys would get mad at me with the Firm Foundation, everything I was doing, because they say, well, you being so nice to the girls and you talk to us like this. One of the things I noticed was a lot of our kids were being, you know, raised in single parent households, this and that. And so the dynamic is so different. And the boys would not have a lot of responsibility. You know, their mothers, it would be lopsided. So the boys get away with murder, this and that. And so whenever time I talk to the young men, my dynamic to them was, what are you doing? What do I need you to do? This is what I expect from you. This is what I need, because I had to set standards for them, because I had to fill that gap that they weren't getting, you know. And then with the girls, it was different. So at home and at school, a lot was expected of them. So my approach with them was, how are you feeling? How are they treating you? What's going on? Because I had to subsidize what they weren't getting. And so the boys are like, you so nice to them. I'm treating them that way because I can tell what they're not getting, right?
Right.
And I want to give them that. And I can tell what your big face, I can tell what you're not getting by how you acting. So I want to give you that. So it's just about being intentional, man.
Wow, that's definitely amazing. Listening to y'all two talk, it makes me think about, you know, especially when Miss Vance said, you know, when you come home from school, she always asks how you doing. I always would say fine, and you know, that was enough for my parents. But I can vividly remember, you know, being in the 10th grade and being on the basketball team and not playing as much as I thought I should have been playing. And I remember my grades dropping, and it was due to depression. I wouldn't, you know, and looking, and I only was able to understand that after I read about anxiety and depression. Of course, you know, fine wasn't good for you, because you literally did this every day. You know,
So let me back you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I became a therapist. I went back to school when I was 42 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was 42 years old, or maybe 43. I felt like I was too smart not to have a college degree. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when I graduated from high school at Provine, I know y'all went to Provine.
I respect Provine.
I went to Provine High School and went to Miss Valley State my freshman year to major in psychology. Unfortunately, back in 1979, 1980, Valley State did not have a psychology department.
Wow.
Okay, so there's no way I was going to get a psychology degree. But anyway, we moved to California, had the kids and everything, came on back. So I went to Jackson State. Like I said, I was 42, 43, and got my degree in psychology. And so then I said, and Jackson State only offers a clinical PhD. At that time, I'm 47. I'm not trying to spend 5 or 6 more years in school. And, you know, you need a graduate degree. So I had gotten a minor in social work. And so I decided to get my master's in social work. So I didn't become a therapist until 2009.
So it was just innately in you that to have those skills to be like, okay, fine isn't enough. You kind of got to spell it out for me.
Right. I'm that way. And even with my students, you know, I don't call them my clients. I don't call them my patients. I call them my students. When I ask them, you know, how are you doing? Or what's going on? You know, they want to shake their head. I said, Miss Vance is verbal. I need to hear some words come out of your mouth. You know, I'm not going to accept that. My husband and I set a high bar for our children. Oftentimes we were talked about because, oh, you guys think you're better than everybody else. No, that's not it.
Right.
I set a high bar. They may not achieve it, but they were going to, you know, get up to it. If we right now are setting a low bar for our children. My son will tell you, he could bring home D's, but if I knew he was doing the very best he could do, I'm not going to have a problem with that. He couldn't bring home a C, and I knew he could do better than that. Nah, brother, that's not going to work, you know. And so the thing is, I would ask my students, about their grades and stuff, and they said, I'm passing. I said, they said my grades are good. So what do you have? And they say D's. They thought that was okay. And then the thing is with our parents, and I don't want to sound like I'm bashing our parents, but parents, we have got to do better. We are rewarding behavior that is inappropriate. There is no way these children should be having these iPhones, playing these video games. Christian will tell you he couldn't play video games till the weekend. He could not play video games till the weekend. Our children, cell phones. Okay, so, and I understand why children are having cell phones if it is for communication with the parents, so the parents know where they are. But you know what? I'm sorry. I just have a problem with, and I had a student who was in kindergarten who had a dag-blessed iPhone. I had a problem with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so the thing is, I know a couple of back when one of my daughters, when she turned 16, her aunt bought her a Virgin mobile phone, right? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
No contract, buy your minutes and all that kind of stuff like that. She had a job. She bought her minutes and stuff. When he turned 16, he didn't want that, okay? When my other daughter turned 16, she got her Virgin, got a no contract phone. So folks say, why no contract? Because if your grades ain't right, if you ain't acting right, I ain't paying no bill. Right. So one of my other children, she got her phone when she turned 16, right? First report card came out, so she turned 16 in June. First report card came out, was it like in September, October, and the grades was trash. Ask me when she got a phone. Ask me when she got a phone.
When did she get it?
When she turned 18 and she could buy her own.
Wow.
We have got to be consistent with our children. Like I said, we can't be their friends. We cannot reward behaviors that's inappropriate. If the school is calling you all the time because Sally Sue is acting a nut and Sally Sue is getting to do all kinds of things, there's a problem with that.
Right.
It's a problem.
So what are some of the signs and symptoms that you kind of see often in your clients that's been going through some at home or going through some depression or anxiety or?
So many, depression looks different in children. When people hear depression, they think, you're sad, you're crying. And so what I did was I actually pulled out some things so I can not forget anything. Okay. So depression in children looks like this. Well, first let me talk about some risk factors for childhood depression. So some of the risk factors: changing to a new school. Okay, children need stability. And if you're moving all the time, that causes a problem. Conflict in the home. There needs to be peace in the home. Dealing with bullying in person or on social media. I have so many students in my private practice who are dealing with bullying, and it's up to us parents and the school system to take care of that, and they're not doing it. Dealing with medical issues. I mean, as I told you, I was the manager of the Children's Psychiatric Unit at UMC, and you have children who are chronically ill. They're suffering from depression because they're in and out of the hospital all the time. Parental separation or divorce, okay? I say this, we need to be intentional about who we having children with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying we need to be intentional. And the thing is, and I say this because there's so many single mothers and there are absent fathers. You like the mama enough to have that baby. You need to like her enough and that child to take care of your child. You don't have to be in the same home, but you need to co-parent. And that's also a lot of things that are wrong with our children. Okay? And then also start in school, whether it's kindergarten, start in middle school, start in high school. There's a lot of anxiety about that. Okay, so signs of depression in children. Ages 12 and younger may include the following: decreased interest in favorite activities. If you know your child likes to watch Coco Melon or what all these shows, all the time and stuff, you can set your clock by it, then all of a sudden they're not doing it, so there's something wrong. Difficulty initiating and or maintaining social relationships. That is so I can't even think of the word I want to say for our children, socialization. And I know, I know you guys know this, that when COVID happened and we had virtual learning in our schools, what people fail to realize, that maybe they might understand this, but schools is more than just ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Schools for our children is socialization. Schools where they can do extracurricular activities. For some of our children, because we have such food insecurity in the state of Mississippi, they know they're going to get at least 2 meals, okay? And then also, school is also a safe haven for our children who are being abused. You know, they know for 7 or 8 hours, nobody's going to mess with them, okay? Extreme sensitivity to rejection or failure. What we need to instill in our children, we're not perfect. They're going to make mistakes. It is okay. We need to from the time they're little bitty, because nobody likes to hear the word no all the time. You know what I mean? But they have to understand that's part of life. So as a parent, you need to intentionally talk with your child about, it's okay if you didn't get to do A, B, C, or D. It's okay if Sally Sue does not like you. It's okay. Everybody is not going to like you. And guess what? You're not going to like everybody. It's okay. We need to let our children know it's okay. Physical symptoms with no medical cause. So they're saying, my stomach hurts. I have a headache. They don't have a fever. There's no, it's psychosomatic, because they're feeling with depression or anxiety. Frequent absences from school and or a sudden decline in grades. You think they're going to school. They couldn't.
Okay. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah,
Right?
see,
grades drop.
See, I had a sudden drop in grades in 10th grade, and it was basically just from depression.
Yeah. And so you need to, parents, like I said, you got to be intentional. You need to ask questions. Okay, if my son, Nick, making all A's, now he making C's and D's, it's a problem. Frequent sadness, tearfulness, or crying. If they're just always sad and crying, that's a clinical sign of depression. Hopelessness, low energy, low self-esteem, increased irritability. Like I say, people think, when children, think about depression, they don't think about if a child is irritable all the time. Now, we all get irritated. But if that child is constantly, it seems like nothing is working for them and they're just acting out and stuff, they're irritable, that's a sign of depression. So that's in children. So let me just get this. It says major change in eating or sleeping patterns, obsessive fears or worries about death. Okay, social isolation, that happened with COVID. Talking about or attempting to run away from home, thoughts or expressions of suicide or self-harming behavior. I have a new client that I met, it's virtual, this week, and she said that last year during virtual learning, and she lives in another state, and she was saying how her room, she didn't want to take a shower. Her room was just trash. She didn't clean up or anything. She said that she actually had gotten a knife and cut herself. I don't think she actually cut. I think her parents came and caught her. And this was her word. She said to me, I felt like my parents should have done something about it. They did not do anything. When I told her, I said, what her parents should have done, first of all, they should have noticed when they saw how her room was and stuff and how she wasn't bathing. You know what I mean? That's a sign of depression. And they should have taken her to the emergency room. They should have made sure that she got the mental health counseling that she needed. This is what they said to her. Well, you're not 13 yet, and it might be hard for you to find somebody. So when you turn 13, she decided, I'm an online therapist with BetterHelp. And she wrote out her stuff and told me what was going on with her.
Wow.
Okay. Trouble concentrating. Signs of depression in teens. Increased interest in topics related to death. Increased risk-taking behaviors. Excessive or inappropriate feelings of guilt. Feelings of worthlessness or self-hatred. Substance use. Short temper. And trouble making decisions. Parents, teachers, village. We have to be intentional. We have to take care of our children. They don't know how to express themselves, especially our little bitties. They can't say, "Mommy, I really, I don't feel like living. I don't, what I'm just saying? They can't express themselves, so they do things, and you need to know your child. This young man right here is a talker. He gets it honestly, as you can tell. But if he all of a sudden is not talking and not being jovial and stuff, I know there's something wrong with him. And I'm going to say, Christian, what's going on? And he's not going to be able to tell me, Mommy, nothing. Because what I say, boy, stop lying to me and tell me what's going on. We have to be intentional.
Yes, ma'am. And I thought it was interesting that you brought up the fact of how COVID affected adolescents and children, because statistics basically say that when the pandemic is still going on, but during the height of the pandemic, how attempted suicides increased about like 50%, especially among young female women.
Right.
Which takes me back to this Murrah Mustang student who killed herself off of Woodrow Wilson and stuff like that. So one thing that through my research, I often see, well, even I've been to mental health therapy and all of that, but one thing that I've often saw was the access, because I feel like the system kind of failed this young woman as far as no one noticed, even for her to even get out to school to even do that, So talk to me a little bit about the accessibility of being able to talk to someone, and the accessibility in the community, and how we're supposed to safeguard stuff from happening like this.
First of all, I want to say what the young lady at Murrah High School, wasn't that something nobody noticed. They didn't care because the signs were there.
Okay.
They didn't care. And they're going to have to deal with that. Okay. So accessibility. In the state of Mississippi has community mental health centers, and they're in regions. So in Hinds County, we're Region 9. That's Hinds Behavioral Health Service on Highway 80. Okay. Region 8 is Madison, Rankin, I think Capaya, maybe Lincoln or Simpson County. Okay. Any parent can go to community mental health center and get an intake. Now, I want to say this. For Hinds Behavioral Health Service, well, JPS, Jackson Public School District, their secondary schools, they have a limitation because JPS has contracted with only one mental health agency to see secondary schools. So I mean middle schools and high schools.
Wow. I
have a problem with that because JPS has there are enough children with mental health issues that you need about 7 or 8 different providers. So my question to JPS, to Dr. Eric Green, who they're so concerned about their scholars, how is it that for the last 8 years you have only allowed one mental health agency to be able to provide services in the school to your scholars? Now, they will say, well, our scholars can have other mental health therapists. The thing is, they're not allowed to come into the schools. Where do our children spend the majority of their days? In school. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed. The pediatricians, they're the front line. They need to be able to, that's why, parents need to talk with the pediatricians and, say, well, Sally Sue is acting this way, whatever, and they can offer referrals. The UMMC has the K clinic, okay? I know there's Precise. I think this name is Precise. It's in Flowood. There's Canopy. Now, one of the problems, the barriers, is insurance. Now, I know the community mental health centers take Medicaid, okay? Right. But some of these other places only take private insurance.
And mental health is is definitely expensive, because even when I was going out, if insurance wasn't covering it, it was hundreds of dollars for one session.
Exactly.
Which is, it's crazy, because through, if you just read any articles, if you just Google mental health, you had the COVID pandemic, and right now you're having the mental health, the mental illness pandemic as well, which is crazy, because it feels like insurance companies kind of push mental health to like the other side.
They do. I have a student right now. Now she actually has a private insurance, right? However, I'm not, and I still see her, but I'm not getting paid because the deductible is so high.
Wow.
So every time I see her, the money is going towards her deductible, but I'm not going to stop seeing this young lady because she needs my services. The help is out there now. There are not that many child psychiatrists in the state of Mississippi, but there are plenty of licensed professional counselors. There are plenty of marriage and family therapists. There are plenty of LCSW, licensed clinical social workers. But your pediatrician is a great referral source. Like I said, the community mental health centers. And then I know I have former coworkers who have private practices also. Like I said, I have a private practice. Shameless plug. It's called Grace for Today.
Advertisement.
I'm just saying. But the thing is, I love working with children and their families. They'll tell you. I would always refer, like when I was a school-based therapist, I would refer to them as my kids. And my children would get upset and say, they are not your kids.
I'm your kid. I'm your students.
You're right.
So, Christian, as a black male, especially in America, we've been basically taught to, well, I won't say all of us, but I would say the biggest theme is that, to kind of keep our feelings inside, kind of, don't express our emotions out loud. So how do we change that narrative? Because I feel like with especially black men that's getting in the prison system and not getting educated and going down the wrong path, a lot of it is just due to the fact that they didn't feel comfortable or in a safe space to be able to express themselves. And especially with you being in a lot of black males' lives, coaching sports, your own son's lives and stuff like that, how do we kind of break that narrative so that black men can be heard out loud?
Man, this is a subject that is so near and dear to my heart because, I was raised in a household. I'm the only boy. I have 4 sisters. And I was afforded the opportunity to be a complete human being. Mm-hmm. I was afforded the opportunity to enjoy the entire spectrum of human emotions. And I'm going to tell you this, and, I get in Facebook debates, and some ladies, my contemporaries, they don't like this, but black boys are not afforded the full spectrum of human emotions. And it's not just because of toxic masculinity. It's not just because of toxic patriarchy. It's so crazy because I got 3 boys and 1 girl. So all my kids are different, right? Even the boys are different. But I have one child in particular who some things that they go through, I will never have to go through. Never. And that's my daughter. And as a man, I can understand that. Like, there's some things she'll confront that I'll never confront. But for some reason, a lot of our mothers have a hard time understanding. There's things, social pressures your son will feel that you'll never understand. You'll never go through those things. I know a lot of women think, well, I go through everything a man goes and some. No, you don't. Mm-hmm. You do not. And it's easy for you to understand it when I put your son in the picture, right? You understand when I'm talking about your son, but I'm talking about somebody else's son who's your spouse or whoever it is. You don't understand it then. And I have so many people that will debate me, this and that, and try to who've never been a boy, they've never been a man, and tell me what it's like to be a boy and a man, and tell me what it's like to go through certain things. And you just don't know. You just don't know. And as a man, it's easier for me to look at a young girl, understand there's some things she'll go through I just don't know. So, like, coming back to it, like, I grew up in a household where I got to be a human being, right? I got to laugh and cry and feel insecure and feel not good enough and feel all these things. But a lot of times with our boys is the only filter our boys have is anger. If they feel insecure, it comes out as anger. If they feel unsure, it has to come out as anger. If they feel less than, it has to come out as anger. Like all these things, because they're not afforded this full spectrum of being a human being, that's handicapping. And you think about this 8-year-old boy, and most of, and I'm not even with you when you talk to these young men, but it's going to be two things: anger and apathy. You know, I'm not with you. I'm not with you when you do your thing. I'm out here in the street and I see this. Either they're very, very upset or they just don't care. And those are the two. But in those reactions are filled with so many different feelings of I'm poor. I don't like how I living. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. They didn't pick me for this. They didn't pick me for that. I'm unsure. I'm afraid. But they come out as apathy and anger. We're not allowed the opportunity. Little black boys, and I've only been a little black boy, a black young man, and a black man. So this is my community. This is where I grew up at. So this is what I'm speaking to. Is I was fortunate enough, and you see my mother here, and I talk about my dad all the time. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a household where I was afforded the opportunity, and I'm affording my sons that same opportunity. But it's like we're not taking accountability, men and women, for the things we're imposing upon these young black boys. And and I can talk about young black girls too. There are mixed signals. There's things that it's got to be confusing to be a young black girl. All these mixed messages you're getting. But right now we're having to be talking about young black boys. If you are a man, you need to intentionally become a safe space for a boy to express inadequacy, for a boy to express fear, for a boy to express not feeling good enough, because he is a human being, right? And let him express that and to understand where it's coming from and to reassure him you are good enough. Because I'm telling you something, people who can't fear, doubt, guilt, evil spirits, man. Yeah. They're evil. I don't think God intended us to feel those things. And people who can't forgive themselves, and people who doubt themselves, and people who hold grudges against themselves, they treat other people the same way. So if I doubt myself consistently, and I never forgive myself, and I always stay in this place of I'm not good enough, and I project that to other people, right? And so a lot of times our young boys, they don't have a safe space to express that. And then you go into adolescence and being a young man, and you get in a relationship with a young lady, and she's perpetuating the same thing. When I want to, I don't feel good enough, I'm having a problem with this. Man, stop acting like a girl. This is something that women also tell men, and it gets frustrating because I get on social media. I had a young lady, and I chalk it up to she don't know enough. And I wasn't going to debate her. She sit there and try to tell me what women are and are not responsible for, how women make men feel. You never been a man. You can't. I would never dream of getting on social media and telling a woman how men make them feel. I ain't never been a woman.
Right.
How am I going to tell you that? You have to stop thinking that as a woman, I go through everything a man does and something. No, you don't.
Right.
And if you feel like that, you can't be a good mother to your son. It's impossible. Because if I feel that way with my daughter, if I feel inherently it's easy to be a woman, it's impossible for me to be a good father to my daughter. I have to understand that young, beautiful, smart. Ooh, I love my daughter. Oh my goodness gracious. I love my daughter. I love the way her hair smells. I love my daughter. If I look at her and say what inherently is easy to be what she's to become, I will shortchange her. I'll shortchange her. I can't. It's hard to become what she's become because she's spectacular. You look at a man and say, it's easy to be a man, but you got 3 sons. You short, it's impossible. And they for some reason, this don't register. I don't know why this don't connect. I don't know why. I wanted to connect so bad, and years ago I used to get angry about it. I'm trying to be as good. God is good. I'm trying to be as gracious as I can. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be as gracious as I can because I keep on seeing people fail these young men because when they fail, we sit around and my wife is a teacher, my dad's a counselor, my oldest sister is an educator, the next sister's an educator, my mom's a counselor. So I'm a cop. We with a nonprofit. We sit around. These are the conversations. This conversation we have. These are the conversations I grew up having as an adult in my adult life. I've been a cop since I was 22. So we try to fit. And I used to tell my mom all the time, "Hey, I ain't no social worker. When I get there, you know what I'm saying, they didn't kick the door in. I can't be worried about your daddy
how you
get
feeling?
some milk and he didn't come back. And we got to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? We got to go to jail. But that's also the reason when I was 26, 27, I started doing the more community things and start coaching, start the Fern Foundation. And, guys, I was like, man, I want to get ahead of the problem. I don't want to be reactionary. Absolutely. And it has it bared a lot of fruit, as far as pulling up on scene and in a bad area, bad with this and that. And 2 or 3 people say, hey, man, that's Officer Vance, man. Hey, because I laid that groundwork, But we have to be intentional with our young men. Men, you have to heal yourselves. Intentionally seek help. I have done therapy. I'm pro therapy, man. I had to, man. Listen, I ended up having to call in the middle of the night. This is a testimony to some of the brotherhood with some of my coworkers. I had a guy. I was a sergeant. When I first made Sergeant Precinct 3, this is in 2020, and man, it's probably 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like, man, dog, I'm having a problem.
Yeah,
I don't want to work out. I'm short with my kids. I don't want to talk. That's not me. You know me. That ain't me.
Yeah.
I called a guy. He's still a sergeant now. He was my sergeant when I was young. I called him. I said, bro, what do we have for mental health, man? He said, man, listen. I'm talking. He answered the phone at 3:30 in the morning. Hey, man, listen, do this and that. Just cover that. Cool, man. Cool. So, but I felt comfortable coming to him because he's shown himself that way to me. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable coming to you, you may have negated being intentional, showing yourself available to them. You have to intentionally make yourself available. So men, when it comes to our young black men who are woefully and criminally neglected, you have to be intentional with making yourself a safe space. You can't do it on accident. Even with my kids, I had a hard time with Solomon. It was this time last year, and I always prided myself being a great father, and I feel like I had disconnected with my son because he's 11 now. He's different. He's going through a different thing now. Yeah. And so he and without, I ain't gonna put all the business out there, but because he got business now. But basically, he was having some self-doubt, and I had to really. That was the first time, and I talked to my dad about it, and my wife Bradford, and I'm like, man, am I a good dad? Like, but I remember, hey, it's my responsibility to learn this boy. And he could have not come to me. That's another thing. That's a victory. Like, we got to change what we think victories look like. You know what I'm saying? Just because your child having a problem and they come to you, that's not a defeat. Bro, that's a victory. Anybody that comes to you with a problem, that's not, damn, we lost. That's not a loss. That's a victory because you showed yourself so caring, so loving, so intentional that they thought, okay, this is a safe space, man, and I can come to this person and talk to him. And so as black men, we got to, and I believe in me, I'm tough now. I'm a bad mother. I'm tough.
We hear all the time.
Hey, oh God, hey, lock me in a room with him now. But I am a complete person, man. To be the lion and the lamb is the goal. To be both of those things simultaneously. To be ferocious and courageous and competent and compassionate and all these things all together at the same time. And that's what we want our young men to be. Really, that's what we want our young men to be. Because that's when you have a daughter, you want your daughter to marry a joker like that. You really do. Right. You really, really do. To somebody that's patient and compassionate, but at the same time is ferocious when they got to be. And you want that balance, but we focus on all this other bull crap. We have to make sure they're healthy on the inside. And ladies, women, you have to let men be people, complete human beings, not just your son, not just little Roscoe. I know you love him, I know you love him. He a third grader in Spain. That's my baby.
Yeah.
He got an iPhone and a PlayStation 5 and all that.
Gold chain.
Right, gold chain, all that. You got to let somebody else's son be a complete person. And the same thing with fellas. We have to intentionally be open and love and understanding and compassion and all those things. But we can't be that way for somebody else if we can't forgive ourselves, if we don't feel worthy, if we can't face our fears and our shortcomings. So we have to deal with ourselves first as men to be able to deal with our young black men, and women as mothers, as compassionate and patient as you are with that little snot-nosed boy you need to be that compassionate and patient with somebody else's son, because he's a person too. So, like I said, I am long-winded. Like mom and dad.
Nah, that was powerful, man. I want to say I'm very appreciative to have y'all on the podcast today, Mr. Vance and Mrs. Christian Vance and Mrs. Vance. I wanted to make sure I got that right, because you might get it on video, you might listen to it. But yeah, man, hey, everybody keep supporting Verbal Intercourse Podcast. We're going to close it down on those powerful words by Christian Vance, and we out. Peace.